Hello everyone and welcome back to The Pod and the Pendulum, the horror movie show that covers all the franchises, one movie in one episode at a time. As always, I'm your host, Mike Snoonian, and I've got a pair of fantastic co-hosts with me today. Up first, from Ghouls Magazine, the online publication committed to covering horror from a purely female perspective, Miss Ariel Power-Schaub. Ariel, how are we again?
Hey, doing great.
You've made it back to dry land.
Yes. I used to hate the water, and I can't imagine why.
Can't imagine why. Well, smile, you son of a... Well, we won't curse you out this early. Also joining us from the Girls on the Boy... Also joining us from the Girls on the Boys podcast, the Losers Club, and also brand spanking new to the co-host chair in Halloweenies. Welcome back again, Rachel Reeves. Rachel, how are we?
Hey, doing good. I just figured I wasn't potting nearly enough. Let's just throw another podcast in the mix.
We love you for it. Thank you so much. Maybe you can settle a debate we had on the Jaws episode. At one point, we posited who would win in like a Survivor Series style brawl between the Pod and the Pendulum and Halloweenies. And my fear is like, as a host... Gerber is 6'4", and he's played a lot of sports. And I used to wrestle, but I don't move quite like I once did. So I think Gerber could take me out, no lie.
Yeah.
But overall, we got Chewy.
Rachel's like, yes.
I'm like, yeah, I don't know.
Like, look, we got Chewy, who's a big guy, right? Who's might be too much of a gentle giant, but I think we could light a fire under his ass. And Kuiper's a bodybuilder. Like, Kuiper gets ripped. I mean, the dude I think he, like, literally can deadlift a truck. So I don't know. Like, the rest of the Halloweenies crew, I don't fear too much. What do you think?
I mean, Pod and Pendulum has Halloweenies outnumbered.
We do.
So there's that going for you. I guess, would just be playing referee on both sides, in both camps.
We had you in the referee. We had you as a neutral party.
There's also more women on Pod and Pendulum, so, like, we can be feisty.
Yeah.
So
that's what I said. I said, you don't see me coming. I'm a lot stronger than I look, and I have low center of gravity. And I'll get your knees. And I know your knees aren't good, Halloweenies.
And Devon has tended bar, and I'm sure Devon has had to, like, toss people out.
Yep.
And he's 6'2", and I'm sure he's had to handle, like, a bunch of rowdy people in the bars of LA.
Yeah.
But I just see him kind of, like, sparking up a joint and being the most chill dude. Like, not throwing a punch.
He would try to talk us out of fighting.
Yeah.
Well, him and Dan Caffrey. Like, Dan Caffrey is literally, like, one of the sweetest, nicest people I've ever met. I just can't see him.
Maybe they would stand to the side.
They would be the peacemakers, and they would, like, negotiate some sort of truce, I feel like. And they'd be like, guys, let's just, like, go have a drink. Like, what are we fighting over? No reason to fight. There's enough movies out there for everyone.
Okay. So we are not here tonight to talk about podcasts that we would fight, although that might be a really fun patron episode.
That would be top 10, like, countdown. We'll just challenge everybody.
Jen and Laura nixed this idea on psychoanalysis, but I wanted to do, because, like, for listeners who don't know, I was shocked at how, like, filthy Jen and Laura were. Like, I thought I was going to have to, like, tamper down my personality a lot, and, like, they are two thirsty people, and I love them for it. I wanted to do a hottest guest that we had on, like, rank our guests just on the Patreon.
How dare you objectify
shut
us?
down. It was shot down.
I'm going to have to take their side on this.
I agree.
I'm not saying they were wrong. I'm not saying...
That's like something you do in school. So. That's like a list you pass around in class amongst friends, but you don't want the teacher to see it.
Okay. Yeah. It's look, I'm not saying they were wrong to do so. They were probably very right to do so. The amount of ideas that like I would have, they're like, this is probably not a good idea. Like they were never incorrect whenever they would say that. So no shade being thrown their way. No, what we're here to do tonight is it's now like just past the midpoint of the year. And I wanted to take a little break, like we are going to put like a week in between Jaws and Jaws 2, just to kind of really recover from the epic bout of like note-taking and whatnot. And we have a great guest lined up for Jaws 2 as well that I'm really excited to have on. But I also wanted to kind of talk about where horror is at the midway through point of the year. Like what we think 2023 has been so far, what have been some of the highlights, are there areas of concern, and then maybe look briefly ahead to see what is in store for the second half of the year. So I'll pose it to both of you first and ask, like, so at this, for 2023 through the end of June, what have been some of the biggest surprises or developments with horror so far this year? Both, pleasant surprises or things that have maybe made you raise an eyebrow a little bit. And Ariel, would you care to start out?
Sure. So full disclosure, I feel a little bit behind on 2023 horror movies. I was trying to look through my letterbox before recording, and I was like, really? Have I seen that few? Because I'm still catching up on 2022, but from what it sounds like other people are saying, and from like the movies I have seen, they seem a lot more fun, and I'm really hoping that that's where we're going. So like I'm thinking of Evil Dead Rise. I had such a fun time with that movie. And it's not perfect, and we talked about it, but like I loved how nasty it was. And like Scream 6, again, not perfect, but I liked a lot of things that it did. It felt like it was doing something different. I have some complaints about that, but like at least it's trying things. And then there's like the stuff that's been new on Shudder, like Skinamarink was really popular, and that's a really different vibe, but a lot of people really seem to be into that. So it seems like so far a good year in horror that there's like something for every horror fan. Like there's enough horror movies that I get to not care about some of them, and I think that that's really cool.
Yeah, I would second everything that she just said. It's so much fun. Like I've had some great theater experiences. Like Evil Dead Rise was great. Scream was great. Seeing Skinamarink with an audience. I was out of town on a work trip, and there was like a little super cute little theater around the corner, like within walking distance from my hotel. And so I went over there to catch it, and it was like the best experience, just seeing people watch that and just being like, what the fuck, and terrified.
What was your audience like for that movie? Like, what was the audience like? Were they into it, or they? Okay.
I think they were really into it. Very like young, I felt like I was one of the older people there, and like but it was completely sold out, and I mean it was a tiny theater, so like that's not like crazy. It was probably tops 100 people, but it was just like the best, most tense experience ever, and I was just smiling because I don't live in a major city. I live in Boise, Idaho, so those kind of experiences, like a sold out, like kind of really into it audience, is not necessarily something I get to experience a lot, and I loved that. So it's just been such a fun year. And then I would also say just like some smaller movies too, kind of having these breakout moments like Skinamarink, or like on the Terrifier 2 has had that, and then also like, I don't know about you guys, but seeing major theaters play some smaller films, also because I'm in a little bit smaller market, it's stuff that other people may see all the time, but I don't see all the time. So like Wrath of Becky playing, The Retaliators, Malum, Mad Heidi even.
See,
and like
I don't even think we got that in our area, like Wrath of Becky or Malum in any theaters.
It's like they play for just a few days, but just the fact that that's an option is so exciting to me, because that stuff in past years, we would never get that. So yeah, maybe that is like we're getting a little hint of some of those things. They're just like testing it out or whatever. But just being able to see some of those movies on a big screen, I think is awesome.
Because I know like you work at, well, where you live, is that more of a college town? Like, is Boise one of the, like, is that where the premier universities would be in Idaho?
Yeah.
Okay.
Boise State, where I work is like the largest university in the state. And I mean, we're not like a small town by any means, but it's like it's under 1 million people, I guess.
Do they I remember when going to university, they would have like because our college never wanted kids to leave campus if at all possible. And it was weird because I went to Providence College at a time when like the then mayor, although he was a criminal, poured tens of millions of dollars into the arts in like nightclubs and music and theaters. But Providence College, like they would set up like theater nights on campus. And I wonder if they ever bring like any of these like smaller indie, horror or not, like to the university where you could see a Malum or Skinamarink.
Not the university. We are like the university is right downtown. You can walk to a lot of like you can walk to like an indie theater. Who they don't necessarily like horror a lot.
Sure.
But there's multiple theaters within walking distance. They will like put movies, because we have the infamous blue football field. I don't know. And so they'll like screen movies out there on like, a giant projected screen, but it's usually more like family friendly kind of stuff. Like they just did Shrek.
Yeah. I think
it's usually older stuff too, right? Because it's cheaper to get.
Yeah.
That was the case at my college anyway.
Yeah, so no, not a whole lot of horror, but maybe I should look into that, because somebody should be doing that.
So I remember, and I know indie theaters, like I remember for years we rented like the small like 40-seat screening room at a like theater just outside of Boston that was an indie, and we would bring like indie horror once a month, and we would do pretty well. Like for 5 years we did it. And I know sometimes like indie theaters will be more like, okay, like do you want to do like midnight programming or something? Especially when college is in, they might be geared for it, like anything to get patrons in, because we know that can be tough for theaters right now.
Yeah.
We are reading so many articles about like theatrical experiences in trouble, which is crazy. What do you both think? Like, I think one trend I notice is like horror being a bit more fun this year. And do you feel like we're maybe, if not completely, at least partially moving away from every single horror movie has to be about someone's like most traumatic experience ever before the first frame of the film is even shown?
Totally. I think it's smart. We've all been through a global, we are still in a, global pandemic, and have all been through a shared trauma. So you know what? I think we're good. Let's just have some fucking fun, right? And I'm very grateful.
Absolutely. I've said it before, probably on this podcast, and I'll just say it again. I think James Wan every 10 years tells us what to do, and I will blindly follow him. And with Malignant, he told us we're having fun now.
Yep.
And so I think I hope that's what horror is going to do for a while, because I cannot, with another grief allegory or a mental illness allegory, like those movies are important, and a lot of them are good, they're well made. And I just can't. I need a break, like a several-year break. Unless it's Ari Aster, I will watch anything he does. But
or Flanagan.
Otherwise,
Mike Flanagan.
Yeah, Mike Flanagan's allowed to rip my heart out and show it to me. But otherwise, I'm like, let's just have some bombastic, irreverent, nasty, gory fun, please, and thank you.
I think I'm off on Flanagan. Okay. And it's not that anything he's done has been poor. Like, he's a master filmmaker, and he is great at pulling at those heartstrings. I think Midnight Mass is going to go down as the best Salem's Lot adaptation that's ever been made. And I don't say that like jokingly, but I think I just get to the point where I'm like, no more speeches, no more hugging, just like enough of this, like enough of the trying to make everybody like, this isn't Amblin. Okay. This is not the end of Act 2 at E.T. where E.T. almost dies. We don't need to do this in everything that you do. I just want him to go back and try to just scare the bejesus out of people again, which I know he can do. But I'm in the minority there.
It also feels like it's kind of like both ends of the spectrum, right? Like we were talking about some of these like smaller films, but also just like giant kind of blockbuster films are back. Like, I mean, Scream is an Evil Dead Rise. Like those are big movies. And even Renfield, you know, to like some extent, like those are all big ass movies.
Yeah.
And even outside of horror, like, you know, John Wick and the Fast X and like Mission Impossible coming out, like we're getting obviously there was a break for obvious reasons, but it's like we're finally getting these gigantic movies again. And it's kind of fun. I don't know, it's obviously it's like didn't necessarily forget about these giant movies, but it's kind of just I don't know. I'm having a lot of fun. Indiana Jones too, like these giant classic summer blockbuster type of movies, even, you know, whatever. Maybe they're not performing as well as people wanted them to. I don't care. They're still super fun. Yeah.
That's what worries me. And I have that in my kind of overall look at the year, and I'll kind of dive into that briefly, because exactly that, the size and scope of some of these movies. I am with both of you in terms of like what I've enjoyed the most this year have been these really fun movies that have like really tried to move away from what I would call trauma porn.
Yeah.
And even a movie like Megan, which starts with like an 8-year-old basically getting orphaned in the first 5 minutes of the movie rocks. Like you can kind of throw that aside, and the rest of the movie is just pure entertainment, where I worry a little bit like, okay, we're kind of in it for the memes right now. Like that movie did really well because like it was instantly memeable like once the trailer came out. At the same time, it delivered on exactly what it was supposed to. Like I didn't walk out of that movie feeling cheated. It's kind of a better version of the Child's Play remake that came out a few years. Like it's a little bit smarter and funnier and a little bit less hardened on its sleeve. It's just more there to entertain. Although I really like the Child's Play remake, I thought this was like a better, funnier version of that movie. And I would be down for a Megan sequel, which I think we're going to get. I think like that movie did well enough where you're going to see more of her in the future. But then you have like Cocaine Bear, which is exactly what it was supposed to be. It's a bear that is high as shit on cocaine, just tearing ass for 90 minutes. Like, delivers as promised, where in the past movies like Snakes on a Plane haven't necessarily done that. Like it's just, all right, like once you get past the title, like you still have to make the movie. These two movies have been great. I actually really enjoyed Renfield a lot more than I anticipated, because I'm usually not the hugest Nick Cage fan, although everything I've watched recently I've more or less really enjoyed. Renfield was really funny. Like some of the gags in there are pretty brilliant. Nick Cage is having an absolute blast in that, as is like Nicholas Hoult in that movie. And from start to finish, like it didn't disappoint me. It's a great little action horror comedy. I think that although movies like Skinamarink, which I thought was good, and I'm glad I watched it in a theater to experience it, and The Outwaters, which might be my least favorite movie of the year. I think I have that like right at the bottom of my rankings list. No spoilers for the end of the year. Even though I did not like that movie, I'm very happy that horror as a whole is doing well enough that these little genre experiments, they get a home and they get to go to the theaters. Like, although I don't like The Outwaters, a lot of people do, and I'm glad they got to experience it on a big screen. I'm super stoked for that filmmaker to get the ability to experience like his movie projected in like hundreds of theaters. Like, good for him. Like, there's obviously not enough of that. We need that. I just wish we had maybe more in the middle. not just super indie and not super big budget, but also these $5 to $10 million movies getting, not just in horror, but anywhere, getting released in theaters.
Yeah, that'll be interesting because I think streaming is a big part of that. Because a lot of times those middle movies are ending up on streaming, right? And there just seems to be a lot of conversation about, to stream or not to stream, right? Like that is the question. Because Evil Dead Rise was supposed to go immediately on streaming, and then they kind of were like, no, let's put it in theaters, and look how that paid off. Versus like Prey went straight to streaming, and then everybody was like, you should have gone to theaters. And so I think that there's sort of not like an identity crisis with some of these films, but kind of an identity crisis. Like, is this a theater movie? Is this a streaming movie? Like, what does that mean? Right. And there are some things I think that you maybe, I don't know, it's like studios get nervous and then they just put them on streaming when it's like, they probably would have done okay in a theater. Yeah. So
that conversation came up a lot when Prey came out last year and Hellraiser came out. They're like, well, if everybody who streamed this went to see it theatrically, it would be the number one movie in the country. But I think realistically, those movies, like, not everybody who watched it streaming would necessarily rush out to the theaters to go see it. You wouldn't have seen that level of success.
Yeah.
But I do think the days of streaming being this, like, all-you-can-eat buffet with every movie that you want being available to you in all of these, like, wild movies out there. Like, I don't think we'll see something like Fear Street, like we did with, like, Netflix a couple summers back, where they're like, let's do 3 of these movies back to back to back and release them every other week and make it an event. I think those days are gone. I think you're going to, because nobody is making any money streaming aside from Netflix. And if anything, they're losing hundreds of millions of dollars because it's just not, there's only so many people that'll pay $7 to $10 a month. Like, you have to sell that to a lot of people in order to turn a buck, and that's just not happening.
The bubble has burst, that's for sure. Yeah. And I don't know about y'all, but I it's like, I will rotate and like, okay, what is on this? Okay, I'm going to pause this one, sign up for this one, watch what I want to watch, pause that one, go to this one, which
absolutely.
So I think that's kind of what you just have to, which is super annoying, right?
It is. You have to really be on top of it. And like, if you're sharing with other people, like, you have to let them know what's going on. And so it is kind of like, you got to really be committed to the whole streaming thing, or just drop some of them. Yeah. Or just spend $1 million to watch nothing.
Well, and like we're like in this, right? Like, all of us are like eating, breathing, writing, discussing the horror and genre stuff all the time. Like, I cannot imagine somebody who's like a casual viewer, I guess. Well, actually I can, because I just think of like my parents or like my sister, and it's like they just have Netflix and regular TV, and if it's not on Netflix, it like doesn't exist to them. Exactly. Like, that's wild to me.
Yeah. We canceled Netflix a few months back because we looked at each other.
Prices.
Yeah, and we're just like, what's the last thing that we actually sought out to watch on Netflix after the great British Bake Off season ended? And
Stranger Things.
Nothing. And even for me, like, I didn't watch the 4th season. I'm like, I'll get to it eventually. But I think like every episode being like a feature-length movie runtime kind of put me off a little bit. But I'm like, I'll get to it eventually. We actually we do a thing where I look at like, okay, what can we do where these services are included? So I just jumped on my wife's cell phone plan, and it includes Netflix and Apple TV. Because my daughter and I were on a different plan than my wife.
Right.
And we're like, why are we doing this? Like, we just saved $800 by all of us going on the same thing. And they gave us Netflix and Apple TV and Paramount on top of that.
Nice.
Comcast was giving us Peacock. I get Hulu through my Spotify account. So, and I got HBO through my old plan, so maybe they will forget to turn it off. But so it was working out pretty well for me.
Wild.
The other thing I've liked about like this year, the kind of familiar tropes, like things like Sick being a slasher movie, Missing is a found footage movie, Influencer being kind of a I don't know if erotic thriller is the right word, but it's definitely a thriller. Like, they are taking some wild swings with what they do. Like, I thought Sick was great. Like, the Kevin Williamson written.
I still haven't seen it.
It is a lot. I would check it out. Like, that is
I
worth,
want to.
Yeah.
That is worth checking out.
I have time set aside in August where I'm going to catch up on movies, and I have a little list. So it's on there.
And Rachel, you're more of the action. Like, that's a John Hyman directed movie, correct? I always forget. He does mostly action, like direct-to-video action movies, like B pictures. But he has like an A level of talent when he does them, and he brings that to Sick. I thought Missing was awesome. Like Missing,
I did too. I was so surprised. I saw that in the theater, and like, I was a little nervous because, it's following, like, Searching was great as well. And so I was like, we'll see if they can follow it up. And I thought it was super fun. Like, is it like the best thing ever? No, but I thought it was really well executed.
Yeah.
I thought the performances were great, and it did have some twists that I didn't necessarily see coming, and super fun.
And I was stunned with how much I enjoyed Influencer on Shudder, because Shudder can typically be very hit or miss, but that is one that gets by on the power of some great lead performances, a couple twists that come out completely out of left field, and a completely satisfying ending. Like, it hits every beat that it needs to land, it completely lands.
Yeah.
And I love that. And my last thing about, like, year to date, I call it horny horror, and that's probably like an oversimplification, but Spoonful of Sugar on Shudder I thought was a great update of the kind of erotic thriller through the lens of psychedelic horror. I really enjoyed that one a lot. Another one with a really holy shit ending, like kind of out of left field ending that I really dug. An Infinity Pool from Brandon Cronenberg, featuring Skarsgård and Mia Goth, and just a ton of like very gorgeous people on an island setting doing absolutely horrid things to each other and to other people. One of the best things I've seen, if not the best thing I've seen all year. And it's a movie that is like unabashedly sexual at times in a way that we don't typically see in genre films anymore. And I love it for that.
Oh, yeah. I'm just so excited for these things to come out, and I'm excited kind of for like the diversity. Like, there doesn't it's not like we're getting 800,000 slashers, right? And
Right.
I think that's so cool. Like, there really is a subgenre for everybody, and something great in each subgenre.
Agree. Totally agree.
My friend Canal, who I don't know if you also know him on Twitter or anything, he runs Canal's Sinister Cinema. He has called as an upcoming trend in horror, basically this horny horror. And I think he marks it starting with Titan, and he's also cited the Infinity Pool. He's calling it Shaggers horror.
I like that.
Yes.
He's British, I take it.
Yes, in his wonderful accent. Or he might be Welsh, and he might be mad at me for getting that wrong. So, Canal, if you're listening, I apologize. It's definitely one of those. But yeah, Shaggers horror, I think, is really fun.
Well, and like, what does horror do, right? It's always like taking like societal fears and things and like recontextualizing and playing with them, right? And like, how have we seen like the internet talking about like, no sex and things? And I don't want to, like, there's been a lot of conversations, right, around this idea of sex in film and whether or not people want to see that and all the ins and outs and complicated things that come with that. And so, yeah, it would make sense that horror is going to like, oh, now sex is kind of like a taboo thing. Well, we're going to stick it in our horror films. And you know what?
Right.
I'm here for it, especially if Skarsgård and Mia Goth are involved.
Boy,
oh my God, yeah.
howdy.
Mia Goth leading a naked Skarsgård around on a leash, calling him her dog, is definitely
iconic.
My orientation. It's my orientation. This is, I'm here for all of that. And she's, this might be controversial. I think Mia Goth is better in Infinity Pool than in both X and Pearl. And I love those movies. Like X is my number one movie of last year. I think she is so brilliant and so wicked in Infinity Pool. Like the scene, have you seen Infinity Pool?
No.
I don't want to spoil any bits of it, but the way that she verbally abuses Skarsgård towards the end of that movie is just amazing and thrilling and everything I want in every genre. I want it in a Muppet movie. Like, I want Mia Goth in the next Muppet movie, like, verbally degrading Fozzie Bear until
it
he
would
can
have
no
to be
longer
Fozzie
work.
Bear.
I'm sure
wouldn't
there's
it?
something out there for you with that.
I would say
I'm sure it's been done.
You know, that's... Yeah, all right, I've revealed far too much of myself.
No, the ghouls were really into it too. There were a lot of Infinity Pool conversations in the ghouls chat.
Oh, it's brilliant. I love it. Yeah. And I've only seen the uncut version. I don't know what they cut out of, but I'll probably pick up the 4K just because I want to get that whole experience again. Yeah. So kind of moving on a little bit, I guess, how do we feel this has been year to date for the genre as a whole? Like, do we feel it's been an especially strong year for the genre? Where are we at in terms of where horror is at the midway point?
You know what? I'm saying so far so good. Like, I'm not angry about anything. There's been some stuff that's been a little disappointing, you know, like Knock at the Cabin wasn't for me. I thought The Boogeyman was fine. You know, there's been a lot of stuff that's like, yeah, it's okay, but like, honestly, it's not like garbage. And so I think it's fine. There's been lots of, like I said, diversity, which I think is why I think it's good, because I think that's exciting. Even things like The Blackening, like the horror comedy, and like getting some of that sort of stuff. And I just, like, that makes me excited to see just a wide range of things and a lot of films getting discussed in major ways outside of the genre space. And I will say the strike situation with the WGA, and like it looks like probably SAG is gonna, you know, like that's a little, like, totally support them 100%, but it's also, that means that there will be repercussions down the line. So I think probably 2023 is safe, but I'm quite curious to see what 2024 is going to bring, because eventually those storage closets are going to be empty.
Do you worry that we're going to see this rise in like AI wrote it, or AI shot? We just did all of this because there were no writers, there were no actors. Like, are we at that stage yet? Is that a legitimate fear? I think that would be
it's already
soulless.
happened. Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, Mike.
No, please.
So I do the admin for Ghouls Magazine, and so one of the things I do is go through the requests we have for interviews and or reviews and interviews, whatever. So I've gotten a few emails about like, AI wrote this horror movie, do you guys want to review it?
Gross.
And it starts to freak me out a little bit, you know? It's already happened. And like, I wasn't ready for that the day I got one of I was like, oh God, I haven't even thought about what I do about this. So yeah, I'm definitely worried about that. I mean, I think we're still going to have a strong indie horror scene. I don't think that's gonna stop. I hope not. But we definitely are gonna feel the effects of AI and the writer's strike. Those two things happening at the same time, or it's gonna be a mess.
Yeah, I will say. I mean, because like I feel like this year's been pretty good for like television, like genre television. Like From has been really great. Yellow Jackets, you know, however you feel about that, like that's a big show. The new Walking Dead Dead City series, like I really enjoyed it for what it is. Like, I know people are Walking Dead it out, but I was like, oh, this is like a great extension and didn't overstay its welcome. Like the show Evil is going to have its 4th season come out. I'm excited about that. And then like the Gremlins animated series. But again, those are going to run out at some point. So it's just like, I don't know what's and like, I love reality TV. Like, do not get me wrong. Like, I will never get rid of my Peacock subscription because that's where all the Bravo stuff is. It's one that I will not get rid of and rotate. But
Peacock
at the same,
is great. Peacock doesn't get enough love, to be as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, but like I don't want to watch that all the time.
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
So you're the David Zaslav fan. You're the one who's like, David Zaslav, what you're doing with HBO and Discovery, A+, no notes. Give me more.
Just toss that stuff. Just pull. Who wants to pay people residuals? Gross.
Yeah.
No.
TCM, totally culturally irrelevant movies.
Oh my God.
I don't watch movies that were made before 1980. I'm just joking. That's not true.
My daughter will ask, is this in black and white? Like, she'll definitely... we watched Psycho for Father's Day. Like, I picked the movie. And she's like, is this going to be in black and white? I'm like, yes. She's like, why? And she liked it. I mean, the shower scene, when you don't know what's coming in Psycho, it still works. Like,
what a treat to have that first time watch. I think that's really special.
Yeah.
I'm a little worried about I'm a little worried about movies in general. And it's not just horror. I'm worried that movies like Dial of Destiny cost $300 million to make before marketing it. And rather than talk about it as a film, we're spending a lot of time talking about it as why it underperformed. It only making $60 million. Like what we're seeing, like the Fast X movie, which by all accounts for fans of the franchise is a really fun movie. It delivers on what people want in a Fast and Furious movie, is my understanding. I still haven't seen a Fast and Furious movie. I'll have to go to Peacock this summer.
You're talking to the two wrong girls here.
Yeah.
No, but it's just I think that I will, by the end of the summer, I think I will have seen at least half of them. Like, I am gonna.
You need to
start
text me live, tweet me, text me as you watch them.
Need
every
every
thought. We'll have a group chat.
Post it on the Slack. I will definitely set up a day and a time when I do that.
Yes.
Okay, we'll do that. And
Patreon.
But it costs so much money to make, right?
Yeah.
That's what all the talk is about. Like, movies cost too much. And we just covered Jaws. It cost $9 million. It was supposed to cost $3 million. It cost $9 million. That's about $22 million in 2023 money. You're telling me that you can't make a great movie that gets people to the theaters, gets people excited, and makes everybody some money so that this business can continue for $20 to $30 million. That rather than make like 5 or 6 of these movies, studios make one movie for $300 million and hope that it does well. And then...
Oh, I was going to say, it's just like such a dated way of thinking. And like, we've seen this happen before. Like, I mean, this is what was like happened in the music industry, like in the late 90s and early 2000s too, before like streaming became a thing. Like, it was just like so hyper inflated and just people throwing money around. And then it's just like, I don't know why studios are so stubborn and like against evolving. But then, you see something like Terrifier making like huge things. And so it's funny. It's like genre. I mean, genre has always been profitable, right? Like, we all know that. But then these movies pop up, but I don't understand why other genres can't learn from that, or why these like higher up studio execs and producers like refuse to pay attention and just take notes from that and be like, well, how can we do this? Like, it's. Yeah.
The nastiest scene in Terrifier 2, which I will not spoil for anybody who hasn't seen it, but it is a rough, nasty scene, and it's awesome. And it was all practical effects. And it's just like, I mean, it's impressive. It looks great, but also, they were able to do it not too expensively.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it just looks better. It just, even when the practical effects aren't 100% up to snuff, I still think that always looks better because it's tangible. There are performers that are interacting with the prop or with the effect, as opposed to performers that are acting against a guy maybe holding up a broomstick with yellow balls attached to it, or a green screen. I feel like, and I think you said this a little bit, Rachel, like it's been the year of like a lot of things are okay. Some things like 65 I thought should have been like, it's Adam Driver fighting dinosaurs with space lasers. This should be, and it's like 90 minutes long. It's not overstaying its welcome. And it got a little bit too maudlin for my taste at time. It had to throw in like a sick child trauma story into it.
Goodness
and I'm
sake.
just like, no,
Can we
just
stop?
take those 20 minutes out and give me 20 more minutes. Like, give a T-Rex and let them figure out how to fire a space laser. Okay, I don't care. That's what I want.
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit of things that have been sitting on a shelf that got shelved during the pandemic, and like it probably would have
true.
it probably would have hit differently in 2019 or 2020, right? If nothing had happened. But then now things have happened, obviously, and so when those storylines are put out there, it feels a little like, oh my God, we've seen so, like, I don't want to see this.
Yeah.
And I think that that's just like such a big part of it, is some of these movies were originally intended to come out a few years ago, and now the world's different. So we're ingesting these things a little bit different because we are different. And so
That's such a good point. I hadn't thought of that.
so I think I don't know. I mean, I don't know the backstory on 65, how long, but I have to imagine that some of that is part of the issue.
I just think maybe Adam Driver's not for me. And he's fun
Fair.
to look at. He's an extremely talented performer, but there's just something about him. It always feels like he's interacting with humans for the first time. There's just something that he's just trying to figure out, the human interaction. What is this all about? I found like I was really
Well,
disappointed.
he can come figure it out with me.
Okay. Adam Driver, if
for
you're
free.
listening. If you're listening, Adam Driver, Ariel has room for you in her basement, the Saw room. I was disappointed with things like Ennis Men. Oh my goodness. Is that a bear trap?
Well, you can think of it as a reverse bear trap.
Oh man. How does one procure that? How did you...
With money.
Okay.
She built it. Don't ask
All
questions.
right.
If we go missing,
Excellent.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. The Boogeyman was fine. It was one of those, like, if you've only seen a couple horror movies, it's a great... Like, it's probably... Like, if my daughter was having friends over for a sleepover and they wanted to watch something spooky, but a lot of the kids had not seen scary movies before, The Boogeyman would be perfectly fine. Like, for my birthday, they watched Host in the basement on the basement projector because it was too rainy for an outdoor theater night. And we're sitting above them in our living room. That's where the basement theater is, like, right below. And every few minutes you could hear a boom and 10, 13-year-old girls screaming.
So
and it was
cute.
really
I
fun.
love it.
Yeah,
Amazing.
It was
Those
awesome.
are going to be their memories,
Yeah.
you know, when they think back to their first horror movies. I love that.
I just wish, and maybe horror's like this every year, and we're waiting for the bigger things to drop. You know, Saw's coming out. There's a bunch of looks like fun titles coming out, and maybe the second half of the year will wow me. But at the midway point, looking at my top 10, there are maybe 2 movies on my top 10 that would have made last year's top 10 list. So I'm a little bit kind of like, want something a bit more from the genre. And I guess that leads me to my last question for the night, which is, what are we looking forward to for the rest of the year? What, with July onward, with the October and Halloween season coming up, and we always get like a fun holiday horror movie around Christmas time. What are we looking forward to in the second half of the year?
Well, Saw, of course. Like, that ought to go without saying, but it is going to be my whole personality for the rest of the year. Very excited about that, hoping it's a return to form in some ways, but also updated for the times. I have a lot of expectations. That's not a good place to be, but that's where I am. I'm also really looking forward to Thanksgiving, the Eli Roth movie, which I say with a little bit like I want to duck so people don't, yell at me. I have liked Eli Roth movies, so
I have your back.
Okay,
on this.
thank you.
I do not, but
Thank
that's
you.
fine. I'm glad somebody.
Okay.
They're fine.
No, that's okay. He's a dick, right? I know, but I give him my money, and I'm looking forward to Thanksgiving. I think I'm hoping it's going to be a good little bit of nastiness for me, and like I haven't had a good little bit of Eli Roth nastiness in a while. And then I am personally, The Exorcist is also coming out, and I have very low expectations for that. I do not, but I'm going to watch it.
Yeah.
Are you a little nervous so we haven't seen a trailer or a teaser or anything for it? And it's coming out in like 3 months.
I haven't seen a single press release. Yeah.
They showed a still photo of like David Gordon Green, like still photo from the set of The Exorcist. And I just posted like, oh my God, it's a chair, like, like that's it.
Yeah. I'm also just personally really looking forward to, I'm going to my very first Arrow Video Fright Fest in London, which is something I've been wanting to do for a few years. And I get to go this August and just experience Fright Fest to the fullest. And so like that'll actually be the first horror festival I've ever attended in person. And so like it's a big one. Yeah. So I'm going to have like lots of festival movies in my eyeballs very soon. So I'm excited.
Wait, when is that?
The end of August.
We should have like a festival roundup episode.
Oh,
yeah,
we
definitely.
will.
Okay, cool.
We definitely will. We'll definitely, already noted. Absolutely, we'll do that. So I think you're going to really enjoy that a lot. I've heard nothing but wonderful things about Fright Fest.
Same.
Question for you, Ariel. Jigsaw and the Book of Spiral. Where, without going too deep, because we're going to be covering those movies.
Yeah.
Like, I'm imagining you had super high expectations for both of those, and where they met.
So I really like Jigsaw. Mm-hmm. It's usually like in the top half of my ranking.
Okay.
I really like Jigsaw. Because to me, it feels like a Saw movie that was updated for the time it came out. It couldn't be what it used to be. It needed to be updated, but it still had the things you come to a Saw movie for. Spiral, I tried to go in with no expectations, but also it was the first movie I saw, since lockdown. Like the first time I went to the theater, and it had been 476 days since I had been to a theater, and I was basically dead. So I was like, I'm going to like this movie no matter what, just because I'm happy to be at the theater. I do not like it. I do not like Spiral. I have major problems with it. I'm big time disappointed with a lot of things. So I'm like, Saw X, I need you to deliver. But one of the things that's beautiful about the Saw franchise is its ups and downs and looking at it as a whole. So I'm like, okay, Spiral was a dip. So now we got to go back up, right? We'll see.
Let's hope. And I'm also with you on Eli Roth. Because I don't know a lot about him in terms of like his personal life or how he's been on set or whatnot. Is he a dick or is he smug? Like, is he someone that is like a generally abusive person that is like not good to work with, or is he just like
if you're
smug?
a woman, not if you're a woman?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wish he
not
would,
if you're a woman. Like, he's poor to work with if you're a woman.
There's some stories.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like if he would keep his mouth shut and be a horror historian, he would be better off. But, like, there's a story about filming Cabin Fever where he wanted the actress to show her naked butt during the sex scene, and she didn't want to, and they argued about it forever. And he said something like, well, you came to the audition with a G-string on. What did you think was going to happen? And then she agreed to show 1 inch of her ass, and so he was literally there with a ruler measuring 1 inch of her naked ass and taping the sheet in place. So, like, I got issues with him, and yet I still give him my money. That's a conversation for a different day.
It's a conversation for the therapist.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Will do.
It's like a Michael Bay kind of vibe.
Yeah. Okay. So it's like that very, I got it. Okay. When we eventually cover Cabin Fever, I'll tell the story of when I moved back to Boston, we did like a horror movie night at my new place, and I threw a pancake party, and everyone's like, why are you doing a pancake party? And I'm like, it'll make sense when you watch the movie. And
I love that. That.
We'll tell that story. Ariel, how about yourself? What are you most looking forward to this back half of the year?
Me?
I've just said that. I'm sorry. Rachel. I'm looking at, Rachel, I'm sorry. What are you most looking forward to in this back half of the year?
I'm very excited about A Haunting in Venice. Which is
I'm not familiar.
it is a Hercule Poirot movie based on Agatha Christie's story called Halloween Party.
Okay.
So it's like Agatha Christie and Poirot, but also horror, and that is like I'm just
And
like
Halloween.
and I'm giddy about it. Like, and here's the thing: like, I have not particularly cared for Kenneth. It's Kenneth Branagh. Wait, how do you say his name? Branagh. Kenneth Branagh.
I am not one to ever correct
I don't
anyone's
know
pronunciation.
him. Like, I have not been a
That
fan
guy.
of his
Kenny
other
B.
his other Poirot, Agatha Christie adaptations, but this one I don't think has been done. So that makes me excited, because some of the other ones, it's like you can't compare. Like, there's, like, especially in the 70s, like, there are some incredible adaptations, and then obviously, the David Suchet Poirot, like, it's just the best. So I'm excited
My
about
wife
that.
binged all of those last year. She loves.
Oh my
those
gosh,
movies.
I've seen them more times than I can count. My mom got me into those as a kid, so I love that.
I love that.
And also, like, Last Voyage of the Demeter, I'm very excited about. Spooky, a different kind of, like, vampire story or Dracula story. Excited to see that. Also, I know this is just me being just a completely, like, an optimist and being completely naive, but I really want to see Welcome to Derry TV show.
Oh, yeah.
And supposedly Salem's Lot is coming out this year.
That movie doesn't exist.
I mean,
whatever happened with that? I feel like I heard about it and then I didn't hear about it.
it's been pushed a lot, but I know somebody personally who has worked on it. So it does exist.
I refuse to believe that.
But whether or not we ever see it, I don't know. But I just, like, at this point, it's just like, I just want to see it, and my expectations are so low. But
What if
I don't know.
What if when Zaslav deleted the master file for Batgirl, he accidentally deleted all of Salem's Lot, and now they just keep pushing it back and hoping people will forget about it?
I mean,
I
maybe
think
that's
what
best. Like,
happened.
that's fine. Like, if they're not, like, gonna, like, I would rather that happen than, like, have something out there that's garbage. Like, write that off. If you're, like, not happy about it and it's, like, not good, like, and it's taking 800,000 rewrites, write that shit off. And, like, don't
Is that
pull things that are
Doberman?
actually cool.
Is that Gary Doberman, who I think he wrote a bunch of the Conjuring spin-offs? I think that's him.
For the new
And
one?
For the new Salem's Lot. Like, Salem's Lot is
yes.
my favorite.
Yes.
Yeah. It's my favorite Stephen King book, by far. It is, I think, his first attempt at world building. It's scary as hell. It's funny at points. I think Hooper did a great job of it, but that was made for TV. Like,
Yeah.
there are some obvious limitations there. I don't really remember the Rob Lowe miniseries, so maybe, which I know is more faithful to the book, but, it's also, again, a TV miniseries. I want Salem's Lot to be good, but I have doubts. What else are you looking forward to?
New Insidious.
Yes, me too. I forgot to mention that.
I actually think the Insidious franchise is pretty solid for what it is. I can totally get why some people don't like it, but it's like, I think they're pretty good as a franchise. And then Cobweb. There's been a lot of talk and buzz about that, and I like the cast, and so I don't know.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, I don't know a ton about it, so I'm excited to see that. And then, of course, the festivals, what pops up, what cool things are going to pop up that I've never, heard of or seen. And I think that there's like Fantasia's coming up, and their lineup looks amazing with a lot of really cool, interesting writers and creators that haven't done anything for a while or have just been working on stuff. So I'm excited to see some of those films for sure.
Yeah. I am hoping to be at Fantasia at the end of July, like spend 4 or 5 days up in Montreal.
Oh, cool.
I have only been able to cover Fantasia once, like way back in 2013, and I've meant to go. Wanted to have returned every year since, because it is without a doubt like one of the best festivals I've ever been to. Just the atmosphere was great about it. It was like they show a lot of the movies like later in the day, so you can just chill around Montreal during the week and hang out, and then in this beautiful part of the city, and then just see a bunch of great movies from like supper time on, and it's just awesome crowds and phenomenal movies.
Yeah.
I just watched half of the trailer for Cobweb after hearing about it, like when you put your note in and a couple other people had mentioned. I'm like, I had never heard of this movie until probably about 8:00 tonight.
Oh, dang.
And I watched the first half of the trailer, stopped it going, I don't want to know any more about it because I don't want to be, I was worried that it was going to be, the rest of the trailer was going to spoil something in the movie, and I want to go in kind of like Barbarian, because I know it's the director of Barbarian produced this. It's Lizzie Kaplan, and it's like a kid having nightmares movie, and the parents are maybe not great parents. That's all I'll say. It looks creepy as fuck. It looks like it's going to take some wild swings, and I think it's coming out soon, right? Like it's maybe, is it next week or?
Oh, I don't know. I know it's coming out soon.
It's
it
pretty
says
soon.
July 21st on
Excellent.
the
All right.
Wikipedia.
It's not the same day as
Oppenheimer and Barbie.
Wow. That is wild.
That's going to be funny. That's going to be a big weekend, you guys.
Yes, it is. I'm excited.
Did you see what Barbie is on track to open with?
It's going to be, no, but I think it's going to be gigantic.
80 million.
Wild.
80 million. That blows my mind, which is awesome. And I think Oppenheimer is like half of that, or 50 million.
Well, it's
that's a
two
hard
different crowds.
Oh yeah.
Let me. I mean, I do want to see Oppenheimer. Like, don't get me. I
Are
want
you
to see
gonna do
them
the
both.
double feature? Are you gonna do the double feature?
Just have a wild day at the theater.
Yeah. I could easily see doing Cobweb, Oppenheimer, and Barbie.
You got to finish with Barbie.
Just one day in the theaters.
People are saying you should finish with Barbie, and I get where that's coming from, but I think I'm going to be too broken after Oppenheimer to enjoy anything. So I think I might as well do Barbie first, and then go ruin my life with Oppenheimer.
Come down gently a little bit. Start higher so you don't fall too low.
What if Oppenheimer is secretly a musical and all the trailers have been misleading, and it's a super upbeat, happy?
I would leave.
Would you?
I don't like musicals.
I don't like musicals
I
either.
would stay, but my God,
that would be
what a mess
wild.
that would be.
Yeah, I think Oppenheimer it's a test, because these kind of like bigger pictures made for adults that are about big ideas. Like, is there a market for it? Like,
yes,
there are no. I mean, I don't know of any young directors or movie stars, like under the age of like 35, that people go see because they're in the movie. Like Chris Hemsworth, we love him as Thor and in the Avengers and the Marvel movies, but then his other movies are like straight to Netflix action movies. Like, you don't necessarily rush to a theater because it's a new Chris Hemsworth jam.
No.
Right?
No, you got to have like Sydney Sweeney in it or something. Or like that's who I feel like the kids would go and see something in, or like Timothée Chalamet, like you got to have like the hot young things in films.
But even that, like, he doesn't open a movie like a
Dune?
young Tom Cruise.
Dune? No.
How big was Dune? Dune was not.
But Dune
It
2's
was
coming
big enough
out.
to get a. Yeah.
So
He rides a
Dune came
worm.
out still pretty pandemic-y.
Because
So-
that was the. It comes out on HBO and a theater at the same time days, right?
I think so. I watched it at home.
Oh, I watched it in IMAX.
Okay.
That's awesome. I know. I am excited for the second part of Dune as well.
I need to watch part 1.
It's
I
good.
should. And this trailer looked great for part 2. It felt like part 2 was kind of like a make good for Villeneuve, though, because he was so pissed off about his movie going to streaming, and he was like, this is, which I can understand, like, it's a not meant to be a watch this on a television at home type of movie.
Absolutely.
But he was so adamant, and I know they wanted to kind of keep him in their good graces. But I don't, like, honestly, like, when we think of like the stars we grew up with, like Harrison Ford, Kurt Russell, Julia Roberts, Goldie Hawn, all of these perform like Winona Ryder at her peak. Like, oh, there's a new Winona movie. I'm there. What's it about? Don't care. It's Winona Ryder.
What about Keanu?
Like, I want to go see her. Keanu's definitely in that mix. Like, he's absolutely, but he is older. Like, he's in his 50s.
I don't care.
He's magically, he looks very young. He is
a beautiful human being in every way.
He absolutely is. But I'm thinking of like the persons that are half my age, like that are in their 20s.
Yeah.
Those stars who rushes out to go see a movie because like even like, and it's not that they're not talented or that they're not making phenomenal movies, but they're not the engine that's like driving persons into theaters. It's the IP.
Yeah. And then adults with money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Somebody's got to put Taylor Swift in a movie that's
go.
not Cats. Whatever that movie is, it's gonna do great.
That's probably true.
I will second a lot of what you both have said about what's coming down the pike. Like, I'm actually really excited to watch all of Saw for the show. Like, I have been joking.
So excited for
I have been
you.
like joking about being super grumpy about having to cover. And let me tell you a quick, like the reason why Ariel's been on so many episodes. Like Ariel guested on Phantasm, and it was supposed to be a one and done. And I'm like,
I just elbowed my way in.
No, I was going to say the opposite. I was going to say, like, hey, Ariel, what other movies do you like? Well, this is the kind of films I'm into. I'm like, great. We just booked a bunch of those. And then Ariel's magically is now part of the show.
One of us.
I mean, like, because when there's talent, you have to, like, do everything you can to. So I am actually really excited to watch the other 7 Saw movies that I haven't seen, because I do think I'm going to, I from what I understand, like the commitment to keeping it like a tight plot line throughout all these movies, like I think I'm going to appreciate that
it's
a bit.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it'll be a fun kind of look back at where horror was 20 years ago. I'm super excited for festival season. Like I mentioned, Fantasia, Toronto After Dark, Brooklyn Horrors around the corner, Fantastic Fest. You start to see a lot of great films come out. October will be my 11th year traveling to Telluride Horror and serving as one of the hosts for that festival, which I don't understand why they keep flying me out there at their expense and paying me to stand on stage and talk about these movies, but I'm very grateful that Ted and company do.
I was going to say, don't jinx it.
My favorite 3 days of the year. And every year we look at I know the other host and I look at the lineup and we're like, I'm not sure about this year's lineup. And every year it's incredible. And we get to watch a bunch of movies that are brilliant with the most amazing audiences and the most gorgeous place. So festival season and you will definitely have some bonus content coming up around Fantasia and Fright Fest and all of that. And also, what else did I have? Cobweb, Talk to Me is coming out. That from A24. That looks scary as fuck.
Yeah.
The Last Voyage of the Demeter also looks really good. Like I'm all about a good period piece horror. So, what about the new Nick Cage, which I'm not sure it might be more horror adjacent.
Yeah.
I think it's like, is it Sympathy for the Devil or Talking to the...
Yeah. It's playing Fantasia, so I'm hoping...
Okay.
I'm covering it remotely, so I never know what's going to... But yeah, I mean, if it's got Cage in it, I'll give it a shot.
It looks fun. It looks really, really fun. So, and again, I'm not someone who always says that. So I think the second half of the year is going to be a really interesting one. It should be very interesting to see how our top 10s shake out when we do that in December. I will say, going through my letterbox list, going through my diary for the year and my list, like my goal for the summer is 100 new to me movies, because I'm off all summer, and I'm at 19 so far. So
you got some work
by
to
Labor
do.
Day. Well, that's in 20 days.
Oh, okay.
So
Right.
far,
fair.
Oh, you're doing good then. Yeah.
Yeah, and like Claire and Ada leave in a week, so I don't have anyone in the house. There are going to definitely be days where I just stack up 4 movies and don't get off the basement.
What a luxury.
It really is. It's going to be pure luxury. And I have settled into middle-aged dad. Like, I'm like The Great Escape at the bridge over River Kwai.
Oh my God, did you watch The Great Escape?
Not yet, but that is coming up. That's on the list for right away.
Can I tell you a funny story about Bridge over River Kwai?
Mm-hmm.
Growing up, I had a slumber party once, and I told my mom that I wanted to rent Bridge to Terabitha. And she came home with Bridge over the River Kwai. And let me tell you, that group of middle school girls did not appreciate it, but I loved it.
No, Mom.
And I should have just known right then and there. like, oh, maybe I'm a little different.
turning point.
Yeah, and I was like,
did she do that on purpose?
No, she just was like, Bridge over something. And then that's what the person gave her, and it was...
That's really sweet.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And I'm sure your mom was like, okay, it's for my daughter. Like, she's in 7th grade. She's having a slumber party. It begins with Bridge. And he's like, oh, she probably liked Star Wars, and Alec Guinness was in Star Wars. Here you go. Bridge over River Kwai I did watch last Sunday. It was amazing.
Oh, it's amazing. I loved it, but...
I'm going through, looking at my list right now, The Lady Vanishes. It's been a Hitchcock year. I've done 16 Hitchcock movies this year with a goal of hitting 25. A lot of Charles Bronson, like The Mechanic, Death Wish, and I got Magnificent Seven on tap very, very soon.
They're all so good.
I've just hit that middle-aged. This is what middle-aged dads watch, and I'm okay with it. I'm totally
just
okay
lean
with
into it.
I'm
Sounds great.
Yeah.
super leaning into it. All right. Any final thoughts on where we are for this year so far?
Halfway. We got halfway to go,
Halfway.
But we'll see
More
what
to
happens.
come.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
So I just thought this would be a fun little episode to do. We'll have just take a breather in between Jaws and Jaws 2, but still kind of have something come out this week. And I love episodes like this because I just like talking about movies in general. So, but let's plug some stuff. Let's plug where we talk about movies in other places as well. So Ariel, why don't you head things up? You have a ton of stuff going on. What's going on with Ghouls and yourself right now?
You can find me just talking about movies, walking down the block, just rambling in your yard, probably at your door. No, not invading your homes. Let's see, getting my mind back on track. Ghouls is doing things. We have some more, screenings coming up. If you happen to be in the London area, which probably a lot of our listeners are not, but if you do happen to be there, we're screening The Fly pretty soon over pizza, so that's going to be a good fun combo. And July is Body Horror Month, so tune into that. And you can follow me on Twitter at Ari_Hellraiser, and if any other socials happen to take its place, my name will stay the same.
I saw some photos of the screening room from the first Ghoul slumber party, and it was such a gorgeous screening room. I love the posters up on the wall. It looked like such a rad place. So if you're in London, definitely hit that. When does your Human Centipede episode with Rebecca McCallum drop? When is that coming out?
That'll be around the last week of July.
Okay.
So, yes, Rebecca McCallum, who is a Hitchcock genius and all-around horror expert, super smart, super insightful. She and I are going to talk about the Human Centipede 1 and 2, so I'm definitely going to bring her down in that.
Did she find a way to relate it to Vertigo somehow?
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah, I actually think she did. I'm pretty sure it's Vertigo. There is some Hitchcock in her notes.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
So there is something there, yeah.
Of course there is. All right. How about yourself, Rachel? You don't really have a lot going on right now.
Never. You can find me currently on Twitter at Vinyl Girl, GRRRL, or Instagram and now Threads, I guess. Over there, I'm at the Vinyl Girl. And Losers Club, they just covered just after sunset and go through all those short stories. So that's great. And then on Halloweenies, we are working our way through the Child's Play franchise. Just did Bride of Chucky and got Seed of Chucky coming up soon. So that's super fun. And then on the boys, me and Jen Adams just wrapped up season 1 of that. And then as just like a fun treat, we just covered the old Superman movie, Christopher Reeve, Margot Kidder. Just discussing that and kind of seeing where it intersects with the boys and making some comparisons and having just a lot of fun with that. It was super fun to do that. Super, get it? Superman. Okay, that's all I've got.
I love the Christopher Reeves Superman 2, and I have such a crush on 1970s Margot Kidder, and you could see why someone like Superman would fall head over heels in love with Margot Kidder as Lois Lane. She is so good in that role. I can't wait to listen to that one. Then that'll be great. Yeah. And I would say the Bride of Chucky episode was such a fun listen, especially when you got into all the music and the soundtrack and talking about Graham Revell's score for it and the Living Dead girl of it all.
Yep.
And
how zombie effect.
Terrific episode from start to finish. It was a great listen. So.
Super fun.
So for myself at Twitter, I'm at Mike_Snoonian. Definitely gravitating more to Bluesky, so I'm just Mike Snoonian there. I am at Mike_Snoonian on Instagram and at Mike Chump Change on Letterboxd. I think that's where you should follow me. Like, definitely need more followers on Letterboxd, and I'm enjoying going through other people's lists now as well. As far as the show goes, you can follow us at Pod and Pendulum on Twitter for now, and also go to podandthependulum.com where all of our back episodes are. It's very easy to leave a rating over there, so rate, review, and subscribe to us from there. Going to try to put up an authors page or a co-host page as well, so you can follow along with all the other projects that our co-hosts are doing, because between really the 8 of us now, I think we are all doing some really fun work, like Steven with Disenfranchised, Devon with Spectre Cinema, Brian with Movies for Life. I'm sorry if I'm leaving anyone out, like Jessica with her site We Who Walk Here, all of her amazing writing.
Nicole and Bodies of
Horror. Like, there's a lot of us, and we want to make sure that if you enjoy us here, you would probably enjoy us in other places as well. If you've really enjoyed this episode, please consider becoming a patron. Go to www.patreon.com/podandthependulum. Sign up there for as little as a couple bucks and get our bonus content. In July, we have a few things that'll be really fun. Steven and I are going to be covering the 1946 noir classic, The Killers, which has probably the best, scariest intro for a non-horror movie that I've ever seen. We have Ariel and I are going to pick a night and cover Sharknado as a little fan commentary, even though neither of us have ever seen the movie. That should be interesting, and I think there will be drinks may be had that evening.
Yeah.
Okay? Many drinks may be had. And I think we'll also do another rental shelf later this month. So that is it. We hope you've enjoyed this. We'll be back next week with Jaws 2, which is a rewatch that recently for the show. It's fun. It's okay. It should be a really fun discussion. We have 2 more Jaws movies after that. Lord help us. Then we're getting to some real questionable territory. And then I think we might even... Are we going to do the Saw trailer reaction when the Saw 10 trailer hits?
I think we gotta, right?
I think we'll do
I'm
a little
gonna need
mini-sode.
some place to put my feelings.
Okay.
So
we may do that, and then we dive deep into Saw for all 10 movies. Lord help us.
Saddle up, strap in.
It'll
Sawgust, Sawtember, Sawtober.
Wow.
Sawgust.
Yeah, it is. All right. On that note, we are out. Have a great week, everybody.